Everybody, it is 6 o'clock. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is July the 3rd of 2019. First item that we have is the roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Erasmo Villarreal,
Present.
Jose Tellez,
Present.
Carlos Flores, George Beckelheimer,
Present.
Raúl Ugalde, Johnny Narvaez,
Present.
Abraham Lugo,
Present.
Josué Luis Villarreal, Jorge Dominguez. For the record, Mr. Chairman, you do have quorum.
Do you have anybody called in to be excused?
Yes, sir, we have Jorge Dominguez.
Okay. And I had Mr. Ugalde text me after 5 that he was not going to be able to make it. Nobody else called in to be excused?
No, sir.
All right, can I have a motion to excuse those commissioners that asked to be
Excuse me,
excused?
did they mention Commissioner Flores? Because I know he replied via email.
Commissioner Flores?
Via email? I saw in the group.
Okay, and Commissioner Flores? Three of
I second that. Or did I make the motion?
you can make a motion?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item we have is consideration of the approval of the minutes of May the 16th of the meeting and workshop of June the 12th and of the regular meeting of June the 20th. I guess before we go on, I know that you had listed on the meeting of the May 16th and on the 12th, the people that were excused that were absent. On the 20th, you did not show them, but the motion does have it, where I believe it's Commissioner, no, the ones we excused, I think were the commissioners, Tellez, Ugalde, and Dominguez. I believe that's what the motion was on the 20th, if I'm not mistaken, by Mr. Flores. Yeah, okay, just FYI. All right, I don't know if you had a chance to read on the minutes or not, and if you have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve with the adjustment you just made.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
We have a second,
Second.
and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries, thank you. The next item that we have on the, any citizens' comments, anybody signed up at this point? No?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, we're moving on to item 6A. This is the final consideration of the plat of Cuatro Vientos Drive right-of-way dedication. The intent is right-of-way, okay? And the proposed action is approval.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Next item is the final consideration of the New Trade Center Phase 3. The intent is industrial. This is a 22.82 acre tract located west of FM 1472 and north of La Bota. The zoning for this 9-lot development is M1.
Just one quick question. Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. So since it says final, this indicates it's the second time it's with us? Or?
Yeah.
Second?
Yeah, because we did preliminary already, so this is
Yeah.
fine.
So it's final, but I'm just,
Second.
number 2, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I move that we approve item
Second.
6B.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you.
Who second? Okay, thank
Joe.
you.
Next item that we have is item 7A, consideration of the model subdivision rule compliance with the plat of Las Lomas del Sur subdivision phase 12, I think it is. The intent is residential. The proposed action is approval.
Motion approved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank
Motion to
you.
adjourn.
Wait.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
There's a director's report.
Yes. If you'll permit me, I'd like to take 5, maybe 10 minutes at the most, a presentation to tell you about the training that we prepared for each of y'all.
Sure.
Okay. Need the mouse? We're having some technical difficulties. Give us just 1 second here. Okay. Okay, so we spoke to you last time. We said how we would like to have some trainings. And I'm glad that it fit right in that George said, hey, is this the second time we've seen this? You know, maybe you're a little unsure about the process because you're new. That's exactly why we're proposing these trainings. So very quickly in these next few minutes, we want to talk about the purpose of why we'd be doing the training, the structure of this training, how we'd schedule it, and then our role as staff in the training process, and then more generally. Okay, why? Why do we want to do training? Well, it's not just for new commissioners, although that would be a primary intent of this for those that haven't been doing this for a few years, but also for those that have been doing it a few years. Old dogs can learn new tricks. And sometimes we get into a pattern of things that maybe it's not the best practice. So it's always good to remember what the rules are and what the guidelines are. I'm curious what y'all would say is the reason that planning commissions were created. If you look at the history of planning commissions, they started to appear in the 1940s. In the 1930s, we had the first the first zoning adopted for many cities. And then it took about a decade, and then most cities started having planning commissions. Why do you think planning commissions were instituted?
Well, it's to create a fair process for any citizen who's coming up who may not agree with a recommendation made by staff. This gives them a potential audience to listen of citizens who represent certain areas to see if what they're proposing and what the staff is looking at jive, make sense, or don't make sense.
Okay, so a fair process, but any idea why the process before wasn't sufficient with having a city council make those land use decisions?
Well, two things. One, the city council is not trained in the field of planning. So sometimes when you have individuals who are not trained to do certain things, you can make rash decisions based on irrational thought patterns.
Does anybody else want to add to that?
Well, a commission would investigate and try to become knowledgeable about the pros and cons of approving or disallowing whatever is being proposed for passage. And it's also, if you're going to talk about it, just commissions in general.
Planning commission.
Planning commission.
Well, that would be it. It would be to see how it impacts the public. Hopefully, do it impartially, and make then a proposed recommendation for city council.
Yes, you're exactly right. A city council, once development became more of a professional pursuit, building homes, developing land. I mean, before people were developing their own properties, and then you had in the 1930s with the laws that encouraged mortgages, and you had an industry building homes and developing land. It became a much more complicated process. City councils found that they weren't well equipped to deal with that level of expertise and the time that it took. So they appointed commissions whose job it was specifically to look at these land use decisions and either make decisions. Planning commissions get some authority to make some decisions, and some they're providing a recommendation to city council, so council can trust that it's been looked at very carefully. Now, many planning commissions at the beginning were made up of industry, people that were in the industry, and even today that's still a general practice. Some people with some experience in the land use industry, planners, engineers, architects get involved, but it's been opened up wider, which is really important for those that are planning commissioners to get some kind of training, because you may not come from that background, although you have experience making decisions in other fields. Okay, so what would we propose as part of the structure of this training? We want to take you through the history of planning commission, both in Laredo and in general. We talk about the state and local regulations that govern the commission. Texas State Code has some requirements, and then of course we have requirements in our city ordinances. We want to go over Robert's Rules of Order. Somebody last time had a question about were we doing something properly. George, turns out you were right. We should have taken a pause. We should have recessed. So that's good for all of us to refresh what the Robert's Rules of Orders. We weren't breaking the law, but it's policy that we follow that Robert's Rules of Orders, Robert's Rules of Order. So it's good to review that. And then also talk about ethical guidelines. When is it okay to communicate with council members? I understand here, not every city does it this way, but here, council members are appointed. Each of you has been appointed by a single council member. Maybe you feel like you have a special relationship with that person. You need to consult with them on your decisions. We should go over that and talk about what your ethical guidelines should be as you make decisions and how communication should occur and accepting gifts and whatnot. We also want to go through some actual agenda items that you all have visited in the past, and we can talk about the development process, where it starts, having a preliminary plat, a final plat. Do it all in one big picture so it makes more sense. Oh, okay, that's why we do it this way. And then actually give you some examples of decisions that were made in the past and how they were made and what was the determination, and maybe this was made correctly or sometimes made incorrectly. Many of your decisions as a planning commission, and we would go over this in the training, many of them are administrative. You know, a city council makes decisions administratively, they make them legislatively, and they make them, they act as a body of, they make judicial decisions as well. So they've delegated some of that authority. So sometimes you're making administrative decisions, sometimes you're making recommendations that will ultimately be legislative decisions, and others you're making judgments. Almost all the time for commissions, you should be basing your decisions on what the city ordinances are. Is what somebody's bringing in compliance with the city ordinance. The council's decision is to make the city ordinance, and planning commission is to make sure that most of those things that are brought are in compliance. That's most of what you do, although not always. Sometimes you hear things and they're brought, council wants to hear your recommendation on something like an ordinance that's being proposed. So what we would propose is that these be a 2-hour training, and we talked to several other ideas how we could do this. We could form quorum, have one day, and ask you all to come, but it's hard for everybody to get there. And so what we thought would be better is if we provide a 2-hour training at your convenience. And over the next 6 weeks, we'll shoot to accomplish this, but we'll get in touch with you, or you can get in touch with us, and you tell us the time that works good for you, day or evening. I'll stay late. If the best time that works for you is on an evening, even on a weekend, 7 o'clock on a Saturday, I'll make that time for you to do this. Of course, it's probably not the best time for your family, so that makes me happy. That won't be the case, but if it is, I'll do it because this is about making it convenient for you so that all of you can get that training that you need, and we'll shoot for roughly 2 hours. And then just know that in the future, we'll have smaller trainings that will, maybe be 30 minutes here, maybe an hour there, a couple a year, to remind some things we went over or to go in depth on an area of, to help you develop a little more expertise in some of the land use planning decisions you'll make. So expect that you'll have continued training. And every once in a while, we'll take you on location. I have a commercial driver's license, and I wrote an article once about why every city planner needs to have a CDL. Because when I was a previous city planner, I was taking citizens around in our old senior center bus, taking them around the city to show them some of these things they were complaining about. I'll give you a quick anecdote. We had a lot of people very concerned about mobile home parks who had never been to a mobile home park. So I took a bunch of these concerned citizens, we drove there, they invited us in, and everybody said, oh my goodness, so it's so nice, so clean. I mean, yeah, it's small, but they expected to see a ghetto. It wasn't like that. These were just more humble people that lived in smaller spaces and kept it very nice. And they were surprised to learn from the police officer who met us there, crime was actually pretty low in this area because there were so many eyes on the street. The visibility there, it was hard to commit a crime in there because everybody was watching, and there were so many homes so close. So we might do some of that, go on location and visit some of Laredo and have some fun trainings that way. Okay, so our role as planning staff, I just want to, and I'll say this again and again, I didn't come here to Laredo with any connections. I didn't come here needing to make any favors to anybody. I'm here because I want to do as good a job as I can as the city planner, as the planning director for the city. And I know my staff is committed to the same. So when we make recommendations as staff, they will always be unbiased, they'll be unpolitical, and they'll be based on best planning practices. And you can depend on that. If nobody is going to pressure me into making a recommendation that I don't think is a good recommendation. So I want you to always trust that. And trust that when we give you this training, we're not trying to steer you in a certain direction of how you should be making these decisions. Ultimately, the decision you make is up to you. We will be giving you training based on best planning practices. That's all I wanted to share, so we'll be in touch, and we'll schedule something in the next 6 weeks. If a couple of y'all want to meet together, that would be fine. You know, whatever works for y'all, but we'll make the meeting reflect your schedule. Any questions?
No, I would just like to say, I want to thank you for what you just brought forward. I think this is something that is going to be very helpful for all of us, extremely helpful. I know that anybody who comes on board and has never had any, other than in their own professional business kind of background, this kind of training is going to really be an eye-opener to help make a lot of good decisions. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
No, I agree. Thank you for bringing it to us.
Welcome. There was one other item. What's this? There's one other item under the director's comments I wanted to mention. November 7th, I know it's a long ways off, but I just want to bring this up, and then we'll bring it forward to you later as something you can actually approve in your meeting. November 7th is a Thursday in November. It's the first Planning Commission meeting of that month. There is the Texas American Planning Association fall meeting is that week, and staff, we're going to be doing more staff development as well, staff training, and so I want to be able to take all of the planners with me. We're going to Waco. We're going to drive that bus. We're going to go to Waco and go to this planning conference. And if we do that, there would be no one here to do planning commission. Now, I could leave a planner here, and that would be kind of sad. It would be up to you if you still want to do it then. It'd be sad for that person. But I would, if we do it the next Wednesday, not the next Thursday because there's a Board of Adjustment or Historical Board, but if we do it that next Wednesday, the 13th, November 13th, it'll still give us 2 weeks to the next one, and it'll still be spaced pretty evenly. So if that's okay with you, we'll bring that forward in another meeting for you to officially approve to change that scheduled item.
The chairman says.
I don't see a problem with that. I mean, the only thing that I was going to ask you is the charter states that the meetings are on the 1st and 3rd. How would you get around that?
We were looking at October.
Oh, yeah, we were looking October 30th. I'm sorry. But it's still, your point was, so sorry about that date. It's not November 13th. It would be the week prior, which would be October 30th. But we'll bring that to you and we'll have it all
Okay.
very correct. So you said,
The only thing I ask is, I know that the charter states the meetings are on the 1st and 3rd of each month. And to deviate from that schedule, I guess, I don't think this
this is
commission
a
would have a
deviation
problem.
from that schedule right now, the special meeting.
I don't think the commission would have a problem with that. Okay, it's an FYI, what the charter says.
Well, we'll definitely follow the charter, but the charter gives us room to,
Wiggle.
we're not meeting on the right time. We're having a special meeting. So we'll bring that to you to either approve or not approve on a future date.
Okay, sounds great. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And the second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.